You're listening to The Sound of Freedom live on the Orion Talk Radio Network. I'm your host, Ryan Brooks. Folks, make sure you check out the Freedom Link 1 hour after the broadcast tonight. Joe Joseph doing his thing. I mean, if you guys have been listening to him lately, exposing the connection of Mitt Romney and the CIA, drug trafficking, the history of the Bush family. I mean, just class is in session, folks. The Freedom Link, Joe Joseph, 1 hour after the Sound of Freedom. Make sure you guys check out Orion Talk Radio for that. And we have Matthew with us for one last segment here. And we were both talking during the break. So much to talk about, so little time. He knows how I feel every single day. I mean, there's just so much going on. So I'm just going to give it right back to Matthew. And Matthew, I'm just to throw this at you, kind of a devil's advocate type thing. You say we should get in the Republican Party or try to, get involved and take it back over, et cetera, but let's look at the RNC. I mean, the Ron Paul supporters showed up en masse. They got absolutely dominated and ignored. They changed the rules. We don't have any visible victories. We've had no laws passed. The country's on the verge of economic collapse. The people are still sleeping. 54% of Americans still think the TSA is excellent. All of these things. Tell me why I'm wrong.
Wish I could address everything and had more time, but I would like to say we lost the election over 2 years ago, and this is something I've been trying to educate people on. Again, it falls down to ignorance and lack of involvement. Right now, I'm working on the 2016 cycle, and if people do not get involved in the next year and a half, 2 years, then we've lost 2016 already, because the rules committees, the people who are sitting on the boards who write the rules for these conventions, the people who chair these meetings are decided by those who show up on a local level 2 years prior to the conventions and the events. That is our problem. People are ignorant and they do not show up. They are lazy. They like to sit at home and talk philosophy and talk politics, and they don't get involved and actually do something about it. And then when they show up at the last second and get screwed, they complain and want to go home and say, look how we got screwed. Everywhere where people got involved because of what they saw and what they learned in 2008 and said, we're going to get involved, we're going to take over the rules committee, we're going to stop this from happening to us again. Voter fraud. Oh, well, you know what's going to happen next time? I'm going to be counting the votes. Why? Because I learned the process to become the person who counts the votes. That's why. Ignorance is our largest enemy. That is our problem. People are ignorant and lazy. If they learn the process and show up, we can win.
Let me pose this question to you. If the economic collapse happened tomorrow, would you be ready?
I would not be ready, no.
And why do you think that is? I'm asking that because I'm hoping to get the answer of because I've been getting involved in politics so much.
That would be perfect for you, wouldn't it? No, I don't have a great answer for you. I've made a lot of mistakes in my past and dug a hole for myself so that I do not have the means and the ability to get out of town and get where I need to be. And I have continued to plant roots in my community. So I am basically getting to the point where I'm more along the lines of I'm going to stay and fight. I'm not going to run. I'm not going to be like one of my friends who is leaving the country. And I wish him the best of luck, and everyone has their own path. My path is I'm not going anywhere, and I'm not leaving. This is my damn country, and I'm going to stay here and fight, and I'm going to fight for the principles I believe in. I'm going to meet and talk to as many of my neighbors, and I've been doing that and getting along with them. And I think that that's where we win. If the federal government collapses tomorrow, what we are still going to have and what it's going to come down to is our local communities and essentially local governments. Because, one aspect of the anarchist aspect is they think that this is a possibility towards a positive thing of losing the government. No, if you go from a functional government like we have to no government, two things are generally going to happen. You're going to have ensuing chaos, riots, and terrible, tragic things. And second of all, you're going to have a power vacuum that's going to be filled by other tyrants and terrible things. It's not going to be a utopia.
All right, let me throw this at you. Do you believe, because I don't believe that the federal government has the ability. I know they're trying, and I believe that, when they pull the plug is when they think they're going to be ready. But do you think they have the capability of controlling this nation if we go into a Hurricane Katrina times 100 type of event nationwide, if the dollar dies? That's what we're talking about here. Do you think the federal government could still control that?
I don't know. It gets far too theoretical. I think that things would get very ugly. I think things are going to probably get fairly ugly. I don't think anyone can honestly predict when things are going to decline quickly or to the degree of how bad they're going to get. I think that there's definitely a lot of folks in the liberty movement that think it's going to be the worst case scenario. I think that that's a little extreme. I think it's possible. I think that it's going to get bad, but I think it's unlikely that the worst case scenario is going to happen.
All right. And once again, it's just unfortunate we don't have more time, because I would like to talk with you more about that. I mean, just from my research, I mean, I feel like that it will be the worst that the world has ever seen. And I don't want to continue to go on about that and just change subjects on it, because it could be kind of unfair to you. But another question I want to ask is, okay, so we have all these people who want to get involved at the local government level. They're taking their communities back. They're going to their town halls. They're fighting. They're doing all these things politically, trying to change the system from within. But if there's a huge collapse scenario and they're not prepared, I mean, what are they going to do after a couple of weeks? They're not going to be concerned about governing anymore. They're going to be concerned about getting food and defending themselves from the hordes that are running around and the bandits and all these other horrible things that could be happening. Do you think that's too theoretical, or do you think that's a reality that could very well happen?
No, I think that's very realistic, and that's why I think that it's incredibly important that people get involved as soon as possible to create that infrastructure and to build for tomorrow now. The foundation of tomorrow is created today, and people need to get involved. The people do this idea of fear and not getting involved and assuming that it's too late feeds into and propels, like I said before, if you believe what they tell you, who benefits? If you don't challenge them, who benefits? This is a terrible, terrible thing to feed into, to say, oh, I'll just let you have your way with me. It's too late anyways. I believe that you stay and you fight until the very end, because we don't know if it's going to happen next year, 10 years, 5 years. You know, people can say whatever they want to say. We don't know when it's going to be or how much time we have. And I think that it's absolutely horrible to assume that it's going to be tomorrow and there's no point in doing anything to prepare for it today.
Fair enough. I just feel like, because, if the collapse happened tomorrow, I wouldn't be as ready as I want to be. I mean, I'm a lot better off than I was a year ago or some things of that nature. But I still feel like, if it does happen, so many people that are just putting so much hope into the political system, that once it happens, that's probably going to be one of the last things on their mind. I mean, at the same time, I want to ask you this question. Being involved in the political movement, I mean, I know you know more than most, and I only can imagine just how time-consuming it is. And while you're doing all of this, and not you in particularly, but it just, I'd say a majority, or I don't know, you can correct me if I'm wrong here, but let's say a lot of the people who are getting involved politically, trying to take the system back, trying to fight the Republicans, trying to fight the Democrats, take their party back over, constantly, towing the line and doing what they can for freedom's sake. But their kids are still going to public school. They're still eating genetically modified food. They're still contributing to the system that pretty much, with our dollars, we're voting for it, those type of things. We're still feeding it while we're still trying to fight it at the same time. You see what I'm saying? What do you think about that?
I do. I think I agree with you, Ryan. And I think we have to pick our battles. And I think everyone has their own role to play, and I'm playing my role. And I think that people need to be careful with what they choose. What path they choose, and I hope it's not a path of laziness or the easier, softer way. I think we have to utilize our energy carefully, and I just ask those who choose the path of, gardening and direct community building and nothing to do with politics, still vote and still at least cast their votes toward liberty-minded people who are getting involved. And try to at least participate on helping each other. We should all be helping each other, networking together for the same cause of liberty. And I did want to mention real quick, we've had a tremendous amount of success from our direct political action in a short time. I wish I had more time to talk about it, but the Ron Paul movement took control of several state parties from the top down. We control the entire state apparatus. Again, I do not have time to go into any of those details, unfortunately. Many, many, many counties around the entire nation, many precincts. Thurston County right here, we took control with 90 PCOs, precinct committee officers, to 42. they asked me to be the chair of the local party. I don't want to be the chair, and I'm not going to. We've got somebody else who's going to do it, which is fantastic. We're making success everywhere, and we're getting platforms to educate more people to get prepared.
Well said, my friend. Well, hey, Matthew, it's such an honor having you on, my friend. We got to have you back real soon. I mean, this is good stuff, folks. Where can people get a hold of you if they need to talk to you?
Facebook.
All right, Matthew Hayward on Facebook, folks. Sound of Freedom. We have to take a break.